Arizona State softball extended its impressive winning streak this week.
And ASU football continue to fight through changes. We talk about the most recent one with two key players transferring out of the program.
And with several ASU teams gearing up for Pac-12 championships, we have a lot to cover this week.
All of this and more on this week's edition of Cronkite Sports Live.
Coming to you live here in Phoenix, Arizona. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Live. This is Ethan Ryder. My name is Matthew Venezia, and we are ready to go for another edition here in the studio. We're going to go right away into some highlights with baseball. Ethan, take it away.
ASU taking on the CSUN Matadors on Tuesday in some midweek action at Phoenix Municipal Stadium. We get you started here in the top of the seventh. Blake Piveroff has two runners on first and second, but strands both of them with the strikeout this time around to maintain the lead. And then in the top of the eighth, Will Levine came in, struggled a little bit, walked two players after hitting both of them, but here comes Christian Bodlovich. They call him the fireman for a reason. He puts out fires just like this one. Bases loaded, no outs. 3 consecutive strikeouts for Christian Bodlovich, and the fireman puts out the fire to maintain a 3-run lead. We go now into the bottom of the 8th. Ryan Campos, freshman catcher, been playing all around, does it once again. Hits a home run here after Connor Davis gets on base with a 1-out double, and this 2-run shot gives ASU a 5-run lead. This will be the lead that they end up taking up into the end, 19-19 overall in the season. Here is head coach Willie Bloomquist about the road ahead for the Sun Devils.
The biggest thing we can kind of try to preach to our guys is just want to know each day. We can't look ahead too far. We understand the situation we're in and the road that we have ahead of us. So it's just a matter of staying focused. I'm pleased with the improvement that we've made over the past couple, 2-3 weeks. But understand that if we want to get to where we want to get to, we still have to get better.
Let's take a look at the specific schedule. Playing a bunch of winning teams, the Sun Devils. They're now going to head over to Arizona and Tucson to take on the 26-12 Wildcats. Then they have a game in Phoenix Muni, a midweek one-off game against UNLV. Then they go to UCLA, who are 25-11, and then take on the Utah Utes at home in Phoenix Muni once again with the weekend series. UNLV pretty cool with Cade Higgins having his dad come back into Arizona.
Sun Devils will face their toughest pitching matchup statistically since starting their 5-game winning streak, as the Arizona Wildcats have the 4th best earned run average in the conference. That success they're seeing from their arm stems with 2 of their starting pitchers, sophomore TJ Nichols and senior Garrett Irvin. We'll start with TJ Nichols. He's got a good 2-seam fastball that'll sit in the low to mid-90s, and he's going to pound that outside corner for strikes to both right-handed and left-handed hitters. For this example right here, boom, 95 on the black. But that 2-seam fastball of his has a tendency to leak over the heart of the plate to left-handed hitters. As you can see, Stanford's Brock Jones takes him yard to center field, and it was definitely a mislocation. Susak, the catcher, sets out low and away to the left-handed hitter, and instead Nichols comes back with a fastball pretty much right over the heart of the plate. How do you combat that, though? With a good slider that sweeps away to right-handed hitters. It changes their eye level, and most importantly, it misses their bats. All right, let's move over now to southpaw Garrett Irvin. He relies on that changeup to get outs in different ways. First way being getting hitters to the ground on top of the ball and ground out weakly. The next way is for using a 2-strike pitch to fool the hitter and get a changeup to swing and miss. But if you miss with that changeup, though, Irvin's been susceptible to giving up hard contact, which happens right here. Susak sets up low and in. He misses high and away. Thankfully for him, only the top of the bat was able to make contact. But the most hittable pitch of his is that fastball. Its tendency to leak over the heart of the plate, which is where Arizona State hitters can capitalize off the lefty senior pitcher. Finally, we have Trevor Long out of the bullpen. With the lowest earned run average on the team, he relies on his defense to get outs, meaning his pitch to contact style will always keep the 8 guys on the field on their toes. It also pays off in key situations. For example, how about a walk-off double play to defeat one of the nation's best teams? But that style can allow for hard contact, as Stanford's Carter Graham has a drive in the deep left field and takes Long yard, and a couple batters later, Braden Montgomery gets him two, this time going to deep center field. All in all, these Arizona pitchers are able to command the strike zone and are usually effective, which could cause some issues for the Sun Devil lineup. But that effectiveness that Nichols and Irvin bring to the rotation could be in question after Arizona manager Chip Hale announced that the pair of starters are dealing with sore arms. And while he went on to say that both should be good to go for this weekend, you never know how a soreness can affect your game.
Thank you, Kevin, for that in-depth look at Arizona pitching for this week's series. You have to go back 2 weeks when ASU were skunked by Stanford for the last time they've scored less than 6 runs. So how they deal with the Wildcat pitching is certainly something to watch for in this series. If you think ASU baseball is hot, you clearly haven't seen what ASU softball has been doing of late. Jake Seymour has everything you need to know about the team's next opponent, who has some good pitching themselves.
Despite their 23-6 start, which included a marquee win over Oklahoma State, the Stanford Cardinal find themselves struggling to find success in Pac-12 play. The Cardinal opened conference play against the Oregon State Beavers, which yielded Stanford 2 losses. However, Stanford was able to get back on track the following weekend with 2 wins over the Utah Utes. Sitting at 3-3, Stanford hosted then number 2 ranked UCLA. The Cardinal were led by senior outfielder Taylor Gindelsberger, who went 3 for 10 on the weekend and drove the eventual series-winning run. The 2 upset wins were enough to propel Stanford into D1 softball's top 25 rankings. The stay was short-lived though, as the Cardinals dropped 2 out of 3 against the California Golden Bears. Gindelsberger's played the plate has kept Stanford above water on the offensive end of the stat sheet, but junior pitcher Elena Vaughter has held the Cardinal together, starting 24 times, more than all other pitchers on the staff combined. Regardless of the Cardinals' 6-6 Pac-12 record, their wins over big-name programs give them enough experience to compete against the Sun Devils. For Cronkite Sports, Jake Seymour.
Thanks, Jake. Before you watch softball try to extend that absurd 20-game winning streak against Stanford this afternoon, we bring in Anthony Remedios to discuss the changing scene of Pac-12 softball in relation to Arizona State.
With Oregon and Stanford falling out of the D1 softball top 25 last week, the Conference of Champions now has only 4 ranked teams as it reaches the midpoint of conference play. UCLA currently ranks highest among the Pac-12 at number 5. Washington ranks 12th after sweeping Oregon State last weekend. But despite a 20-game win streak and a 31-5 overall record, Arizona State is still outside the top 10 at number 11, even after sweeps against then-ranked Oregon State, Arizona, and Oregon. ASU also picked up the series sweep against Utah last weekend. Oregon State is still ranked at 20 heading into its series against the Bruins tonight. The Sun Devils will take their win streak to Palo Alto, California this weekend, where they will play a 3-game series against the Stanford Cardinal. Looking ahead, Cal, UCLA, and Washington still remain on their schedule. And here's Riley Swenson for this week's Vault.
When ASU makes the trip to Palo Alto this weekend to take on the Cardinal, their season will look very similar to that of the team in 2011. That year, ASU was on a roll going into a late season series with Stanford, having won 11 in a row and only losing 5 games all year. That weekend set in 2011 is where ASU picked up its 6th loss, falling to the Cardinal in the second matchup of the series. ASU would avenge that loss, though, by winning their last 11 games of the year and being crowned national champions. The Sun Devils are looking to replicate that type of success this season, as they also have just 5 losses on the year and own a double-digit win streak of their own at 20 games. The win streaks going into the respective Stanford series is an interesting note, but it's just the start of where these two teams reflect each other. Freshman Dallas Escobedo was the ace on the championship team, as she was dominant throughout the season and won the Pac-10 Freshman of the Year. This year's squad also has a very good freshman pitcher in Mac Morgan, who leads the team in wins and appearances. On the hitting side of things, the ASU lineup in 2011 was stellar, with all 9 batters hitting over 300 and leadoff batter Caitlin Boyd over 400. The 2022 Sun Devils aren't quite that deep, but they do have 7 players hitting over the 300 mark, with Yanni Acuna and Sydney Sanders leading the way at 462 and 442 respectively. Although the Sun Devils would like to see the winning streak grow, dropping one to Stanford this weekend might not be the worst thing, as we saw in 2011.
In recent shows, we've gone over the impact that's gone on in the offseason with certain players, and today's segment with ASU football is no different. On Thursday, senior Ricky Pearsall and sophomore Eric Gentry entered the transfer portal, ending their time here in Tempe. With that, we bring in reporter Nick Borgia to examine the matter. Nick, what kind of impact did these two players have for ASU football?
Yeah, if you're a Sun Devil fan, this one stings especially. I mean, we look at Ricky Pearsall, 48 receptions, 480 yards, 5 total touchdowns last season. He led his team in those stats, and on top of that, coming into this season, he was expected to be a leader. You know, with the departure of other offensive threats like Jaden Daniels or Shad White and many others that maybe even went to the transfer portal, Pearsall was expected to be back and be that offensive threat. Now, moving on to Eric Gentry, some huge shoes to fill, literally. I mean, 6'6", 200-pound linebacker. This guy is a terror. 45 tackles last season, 5 tackles for loss, a sack. And he's only a sophomore, earned freshman All-American honors last season, just a big-time player. Definitely a lot of potential for this linebacker and could be among one of the best linebackers in the nation. So loss for ASU.
Definitely 2 big losses for the Sun Devils. Now, why specifically do you think these 2 guys wanted to move on from the program and no longer spend time here in Tempe?
Right. I mean, if you look on Twitter right now, there's a whole lot of speculations that are circulating around. And for me, it boils down to 3 main things. 1, it could be the appeal of big-time NIL deals. At ASU, getting NIL deals, if you're a high-caliber player like Pearsall and Gentry, it's a little bit more difficult. So they could be in search of NIL deals elsewhere. We can also talk about the ASU football program here. I mean, it's just not the greatest it's ever been with the scandals and the investigations and just all the things that are going on behind the scenes. So that could be a reason that may have affected them. I would caution believing that side of it just because both of these players did practice in full throughout the spring. All 15 sessions they were there in wrist injuries. So I'd like to believe that their decision to transfer is at least somewhat recent. That leads me to my next point. At least for Ricky Pearsall, just being a part of this new offensive scheme with the new offensive coordinator, 2 new quarterbacks, just a lot of uncertainty. And going into his final year, I mean, he's a high-caliber player that may be looking to join a more highly touted Power 5 program in college sports.
Definitely, for sure. It is a little confusing and trying to understand why this is exactly happening, as you and I both spent time, checking these players out and seeing them during spring ball. But it is expected now that they've entered the portal that they will be moving on to new homes. So what is that going to look like now with the position groups here at ASU trying to address those holes? Yeah, for ASU, it's just going to be that next man up mentality. On the receiving end of things, you've got Elijah Badger, Chad Johnson Jr., Andre Johnson, just to name a few. Younger guys, less experienced, but it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to have to step up and fill that role. And on the linebacker side of things, you've got returners like Kyle Soley, Merlin Robertson, and then some newcomers like Caleb McCullough and Connor Soley, who's been here but has his time to shine if he wants to step up and take that role. So those are some players that we could see. And then you also got to believe ASU may be dipping into the transfer portal and picking out some players of their own. So a whole lot of things to expect here as we come into the fall for ASU football. Well, for surely. I mean, we are definitely running out of fingers here to count how many different guys have left the program. The Sun Devils definitely need to do some work of their own in the portal. So thank you so much, Nick, for helping us address some of the big problems going on with ASU football in the portal. Now moving on to another team, as it's tournament time for Arizona State tennis. 2 teams that finished right around the middle of the pack are in the regular season, and anything can happen now that we're getting ready to go for Pac-12 tournament action. And with more on that, here is Jonah Krell.
If you think the madness was over in March, well, it's not over yet in April, as the Pac-12 Tennis Championships kicked off Thursday. The number 5 seed ASU women's tennis team came into the tournament rolling on a 6-match win streak, which it added to with a win in their opening matchup against number 4 USC yesterday. Head coach Sheila McInerney praised the team's poise under pressure as the Sun Devils battled back from down 3-0 to take the match 4-3. The well-balanced and connected group, known as the Super 7 from within, were led by senior Dominika Turkovic, who won in a dramatic 3-set match to tie the score, and nationally ranked sophomore Julia Morley, who clinched the comeback in the number 1 singles matchup. At the moment, they are currently taking on number 1 Cal in the semis, who they upset earlier this month, and hope to continue their magical run to possibly their first Pac-12 championship since the tournament began in 2017. On another note, the ASU men's team lost their opening match against Stanford 4-0. They have been struggling this season with a very competitive and stiff schedule, but they hope to bounce back next year. Back to you guys at the desk.
That was Jonah Krell with the update. Jonah and us here at WCSN will keep you updated with everything that's going on with ASU women's tennis and their fate in the Pac-12 tournament. Another team getting ready to go for its conference tournament is ASU Golf. Fresh off a second-place finish at the Thunderbird Collegiate, our Henry Dominique gets you ready to go before the tournament begins.
Last weekend, James Liao joined the likes of Sun Devil greats Paul Casey, John Rahm, and Phil Mickelson by securing the victory at the Thunderbird Collegiate at Papago Golf Club. Liao finished with a 14-under 199, securing the victory by 2 strokes. The victory comes a year after surgery to repair his labrum, a key foundation of any golfer's swing. The victory came against high-quality competition with 4 of the top 5 teams in attendance. One notable absence was Sun Devil David Puig, the 8th-ranked amateur in the world, did not compete last week and is not scheduled to compete at the Pac-12 Championships. After their worst team score of the year at the Cabo Collegiate, the Sun Devils have bounced back before the Pac-12 Championships in Seattle with a 2nd place at the Thunderbird Collegiate, 5 strokes behind the consensus #1 team in the nation, Oklahoma. The Sun Devils are currently ranked 4th in the country in all major standings, and at the Pac-12 Championships next Monday through Wednesday, they will face only 2 other ranked teams, Washington, who currently sits 8th in the Golf Stat team rankings, and Stanford, who sits at 17th. Head coach Matt Thurman will be entering familiar territory as the Sun Devils are looking to take their first Pac-12 golf championships since 2008.
Thanks, Henry. ASU Golf continues to impress. Another team impressing is ASU Lacrosse, who keeps on winning. Our Tia Reed joins us and tells us what they could achieve at the end of this season.
ASU Lacrosse is just about ready to wrap up its regular season. But first, the Sun Devils will have to take on one of their most challenging conference foes, the number 18 ranked USC Trojans. It was just about a month ago that USC bested ASU 17-10 in Los Angeles. And since then, the Sun Devils haven't lost a conference game, and they currently sit at a 3-way tie atop the Pac-12 standings with the Trojans and the Stanford Cardinal. But if ASU can get the win this weekend, they'll be able to secure at least a piece of the regular season championship and set themselves up to make a run for their first ever Pac-12 tournament title. The 2 teams are coming off identical weekends in which they both beat Oregon and Colorado. Where the Sun Devils have the advantage, however, is momentum, with a 5-game win streak and a 2-week sweep of Pac-12 weekly awards, thanks to attacker Carly Adams and goalkeeper Katie Valley. The Sun Devils will be sure to put on a show as they also celebrate their seniors at Sun Devil Soccer and Lacrosse Stadium. USC and ASU will face off this afternoon, starting at 3 p.m. in Tempe.
Thank you so much for all of that. After watching our show, you can head over to the ASU live stream to watch that senior night. Our own Mac Friday will be joined with Austin Ford on the call. After senior night lacrosse, we'll have Pac-12 championships in the first week of May. For beach volleyball, though, there's Pac-12 championships start much sooner. Sammy Miller joins us to discuss what the Sun Devils have to do to have some success.
Thanks, Matt. As the Sun Devils season is coming to an end, they have one final opportunity to leave everything they have on the sand, and that chance at the Pac-12 championships next week in Tucson. This team has struggled through some growing pains while switching up their pairs midway through the season, but they managed to still have a 15-13 overall record, going 5-5 in conference play. Some notable wins were against Arizona, Utah, and Washington, while still putting up a fight against top-ranked teams in the country like USC, UCLA, and Stanford. The standout players for the Sun Devils all season long have been the ones pair, Sierra Flood and Lexi Sweeney. This pair and the rest of the squad are going to have to bring their A game to the tournament by making sure they have a strong serve as their first line of defense, as well as strategic placement of the ball on the offensive end. It is expected that USC and UCLA will be battling in the final duel to win it all. But as we've seen across all sports, the underdogs tend to creep in, especially when it comes to conference tournament time. The bracket has yet to be announced, but make sure to tune into the Pac-12 network to watch all of the action starting on Wednesday. Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Sammy, for that. Now it's time for some top plays. ASU Lacrosse is red hot. We talked about that earlier. Look at that goal right through the 5-hole. The Devils stay hot.
And at 2, Alina Torres hit a leadoff in the second game of the series. Why not do it again? Sends this one for a ride. Another bomb for Alina Torres. ASU goes on to win 8-7 and extend their winning streak to 20 games.
The bats for both teams are hot with ASU here. We're going to go to baseball at number 1. Joe Lampe. In the bottom of the 8th, the Sun Devils put up 4 runs to stun USC, and this 2-run bomb by Lampe gave the Sun Devils a 9-8 lead. And the Sun Devils stay hot, getting ready to go in Tucson this upcoming weekend. Lampe with a big bomb.
What a penultimate show to the semester. The last show I will be anchoring for CSL and WCSN. It has been a ride, and who better to end it with than you, Matt Venezia, here at the desk. I've been Ethan Ryder for everyone in the studio and everyone in the production studio as well that has made this possible. Thank you guys for listening in, and tune in next week for the season finale.